welcome back. Today we're commuting in the Mercedes-AMG GT63 Coupe. It has 577 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds with this new all-wheel drive system. But we're in New Jersey, man, and I gotta go get a cup of coffee. So let's get this thing started up. The headlights do the craziest dances. Actually, when you turn it off, last night I pulled into this hotel and I turned it off and it actually displayed Mercedes-AMG in front of me, which it was cool to see, but it is a little much when we're talking about puddle lights and things. But let me show you one of the things I like about this car, which is actually one of the things I thought I wasn't gonna like about this car. Oof. First, check out this color. That's not what I'm talking about. This is Starling Blue Magno, I believe. And this is a 2024 model year. I'm in love with these wheels, but the thing I'm about to talk about is the size. It's a little bit heavier. It's like 500 pounds heavier than the outgoing model. It's taller, wider, longer, which I thought was going to be a detractor until I needed my luggage to fit. And look at how much room there is back here. That was actually really nice because the last time I came down here, I'll explain why I'm here. The last time I came down here, I had a G-Wagon, a G63, which was actually Kim Kardashian's Dakota Brown G-Wagon. But I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit my big old honking luggage in this thing, and there it is. Anyway, the car is beautiful. I'm down here because McGovern Auto Group just started working with and picked up a store down here, the Mercedes of Little Silver, which they had a massive amount of inventory that was unphotographed. So I came in as a bit of a ringer. Last week, I think I shot 148 or 150 cars, coming down here for a couple days before Thanksgiving to wrap up another 60 or so. And they always give me a really nice loaner to get to and from the hotel. All right, the door handles are working. They have improved this since their inception back in the S-Class. But anyway, inside we've got all this nice leather and Alcantara. The trouble with this car, man, is that it needs to compete with the mighty 911, and that is a tall order because the 911 is good and it has just been getting incrementally better every single generation. And this is sort of a redesign, a refresh, and it feels a little more like the SL than the outgoing GTS. I don't know if that's a great thing, but we'll see. We have rear steering. I think it's about 2.5 degrees, so it is quite nimble in these little parking lots. But I'll tell you, no one is questioning if you're coming or going because this thing sounds absolutely bonkers. All right, I gotta go check out of this hotel. So hang on, I'm gonna park and I'll be right back. Look at this, look at this. You love to see it. Super nimble for a wide, big old sports car. Got my heads-up display, auto start stop, 360 camera. All right, enough of this junk. I'll be right back. Put it in sport mode. We'll get our exhaust a little bit louder. We'll head out on the road. This thing is so quick, and a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 from AMG is legitimately never disappointing. You hear that? Wide front tire. So watch when we go for a full lock. You can hear it slipping up front. Characteristic of these types of sports cars, especially when it's a little bit cold. We got a couple little sprinkles of drizzle here, but we're gonna get a nice little run. No one's ever gonna catch you in this car. It's crazy. This 9-speed gearbox hits pretty aggressively on the sound, but I don't get a big jolt in the seat. So it's not like you're jumping into a Huracan or an Aventador, although it does sound just thunderous every time you hit that upshift. They definitely maintained the outrageous character of those upshifts. It's so good. Okay, I was also told that I need to drink Rook coffee. That's the thing to do in New Jersey. So I'm going to do that and then hopefully not spill that coffee when I do another acceleration. Okay, quick pit stop to Rook. You are really coming on a legitimate morning commute with me. Coffee acquired. Oh, I love the startups of these cars. This is probably already too hot for me, but let's take a taste. Yeah, I'm gonna wait on that. Although it does smell insanely good, and I've been drinking pretty gross hotel coffee the last day, and that's not my favorite. Right now, we have rain, which, oddly enough, you know, I told you this is bigger, which should be a point against it. It's not. Another thing that should be a point against it is that it's all-wheel drive now and not rear-wheel drive. However, I'm not that disappointed about this because it means that I'm still going to be able to put down power, although I am going to have to try not to put down so much power that I spill my coffee. I don't mess around in New Jersey. I think in Massachusetts I would have gone for that and been like, I'm already here. But here, I have seen some things. And it's always the moment I get to New Jersey that I see things that I never thought I would see. There's not a shred of tire left on that.
Oh my God.
New Jersey, man, never disappoints.
He's on a rim. Oh my God.
Can't make this shit up.
This
is pretty good. All right. I mean, as a commuter, is this what you'd buy for a commuter? Maybe. It is a bit stiff. And this engine is just, oh my goodness, the low end torque. That's the beauty of these things. Now, granted, so too is the 911. And it's like kind of impossible to compare the two because they're so different. An AMG GT and a 911 are just such different experiences that you're clearly looking for one or the other. I think if you drove both cars back to back, you would know immediately what you were looking for. But look how smooth that is. The shifts. Now these seats are pretty stiff and rigid on a long road, and they're pretty narrow, frankly. I mean, I'm a skinny dude, and I am hugged quite tight. Those are not adjustable side bolsters, so make sure whatever seat option you opt for is going to do you well, because you don't want to get in a car that you don't fit in. I feel like people more and more kind of buy cars sight unseen. Maybe that's like the bring a trailer effect. But it is really important to find out if you like the thing that you're about to spend $200,000 on, which I don't know if I said that already, but this cost a little over $200,000 when it was new. Now it's about $184, $185 is what I saw it listed on the website. And color me optimistic, but I think that this actually has better visibility than the outgoing GT. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that, but it does just seem that way. These brakes, they are aggressive, but they're not hard to modulate at low speeds, which I think is one of those really delicate balances where you have a braking setup that can do the boring traffic commuting thing, but also if you get out onto a racetrack, I don't think you're going to run into any overheating issues or lack of brakes. I think this is a pretty aggressive setup. Interior lighting is making me that's very pleasing. Something about the purple. I got into an S-Class yesterday that I was photographing, and someone had set the ambient lighting to green, and it was genuinely upsetting. It looked like that gas station green. It was too green. It was wrong. Purple, dark blue, those are or lavender, like those are the correct colors for interior lighting. I think you could tell someone's a psychopath if you get into their car and they have their ambient lighting set to green. Oh my God, we're just going over manhole covers that I don't think any of these SUVs even recognize exist, and we are nailing these. That was a feeling. Sorry, Grand Marquis. That's dangerous. Oh my goodness. I think this is a sound that's going away. Everyone is going, obviously turbocharged, this is turbocharged, but hybrid, there is going to be a hybrid version of this. It's going to have like 1,000 horsepower or some absurd number. It'll do 0 to 60 in the 2s instead of the 3s. And that's fine. I do think that we're chasing the wrong numbers, though, because I think that if auto manufacturers, this isn't just a knock against Mercedes or anything. This is everybody. This is Ferrari. This is BMW. All of the companies that make what were fun enthusiast cars. I think that if these companies dedicated some funding to develop simple, light, Lotus-inspired cars, let's say, but let's call it a 3,000-pound manual transmission sports cars with very minimal technology, like basically no screen, analog gauges. You could charge whatever you want for this. I mean, we're watching it happen in the hypercar market, where they're starting to introduce like a manual Utopia. That's pretty wild from Pagani, but it's what the people want. And just sort of like Formula One, that kind of high top tier tech and stuff that goes on in the hypercar world sometimes does trickle down a little bit. And sorry, I just had to pause for that sound. It's so good. And shows us like what are people actually hunting for. Now the Utopia is a little more of a GT car, so that's not the greatest example, but take the Gordon Murray, the T50. Does that go out and chase down records? Absolutely not. It chases 12,000 RPM and a just carnal driving experience that is kind of lacking. Now, the sound of this car gives me that fizz, and I like that. But I can tell that it's a bigger car. And that's not terrible. I was out driving my 911 the other day. It's an 88 Carrera. It's a small car. And it wasn't always a super small car, but in today's world, it really feels small. So you do have to strike this delicate balance of like, what even feels safe on the road anymore? Is he gonna come back? Or is he just gonna sit in the middle? We don't have to worry too much. So the gearbox is a little slow when it comes to its automatic changes. So the paddles are a godsend. But it's not cumbersome like an old, like early 2000s Benz or anything. I've read some articles where they're like, oh, this gearbox, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you know what? It ain't PDK. So if that's its competition, then sure, it does not meet that criteria. However, it's not bad. And it gets these upshifts off lightning fast. But you can always just tell it where you'd like it to be yourself, which I've kind of been doing. And it does a good job of making that mix of sort of, I think this is a school zone. There's always a cop car there, and there's never a cop in it, but I'm not about to blow through a school zone at speed. Gee, I think someone just did that recently, and it didn't go over so well. That is not respecting the drive. Anyway, yeah, this is a little bit sore thummy in terms of getting pulled over in a school zone. We don't want to play that game. Are you crossing? Are you just standing? What are we doing here? Okay, well now I am, they hit it right at the point where if I hit the brakes, it's dangerous. So I'm not taking the L for that one. Anyway, if you were wondering what I do for my job, like I get this question all the time, which is like, you're kind of watching me do my job right now. This is what I do. I make YouTube videos. However, I do some freelance photography. I shoot a lot of bring a trailer auction photos, and typically that's a very different kind of shoot than what I'm doing today and yesterday at a dealership with inventory. This is not what I normally do. This is not exactly what I'm passionate about, but it is something that can be lucrative, and I help out my friend who needs to burn through basically an entire inventory of a dealership, which is like so many cars, so many cars. So normally all those Bond Group cars, those are for sale. Those are going to Bring a Trailer. So if you look up Feminod on Bring a Trailer, you'll see all of my photography and videos, and that's what sells those vehicles. I do the marketing. And here, they needed someone to come in and just burn through an inventory shoot because their typical like local photographer, I think, oh, that's just like my old 350Z. Those are the same wheels. I had a base 350Z in that Silverstone color. So cool. But their local photographer, he does things the correct way. You know, he's like rotating the car. He's putting the car in a very specific location. he only gets through, you know, maybe a half a dozen to a dozen cars a day, whereas like I was given license to, is this green? Oh my goodness. Gorgeous Taycan. Green with gold wheels. Yes, that is a specification. So some people in Jersey have some taste. What I can do down here is I was given license to just like churn and burn, like get the photos done. And I'm doing my best to make them look as good as possible, but I'm not so concerned with like backgrounds and things. We're kind of just pulling them out of spots and lots and shooting them as they sit, which is fine. Today it's raining. I'm not complaining because clouds are your friend. Any photographer knows this when it comes to shooting cars. Clouds are your friend when it comes to especially interior photos, because man, oh man, can it be a complete pain in the ass when you have massive contrasted shadows and sunlight blasting on a seat. There's only so much you can do in Lightroom. So we're gonna get out there today and shoot as many cars as we can and try to get this dealership whole and ready to rock and roll under its new McGovern name. I'm gonna go back to comfort mode, but I'm gonna put the exhaust on because I think that's probably the way to do it. Look how cute these little wipers are too. It's a short little windscreen. It's not quite a Huracan, but it's definitely a small windscreen. And I feel like you know what? I feel like I've got more headroom in this car than the outgoing predecessor, the GTS and all those cars. But what I'm curious about is what this can do once it gets to the GTR or, you know, pro level of this car, because now you're dealing with more weight. So I am interested to see how they manage this. Give one little last. And it just hooks up. It's so crazy how this just hooks up. The old car would be fighting for its life to put power down to the rears, which is fun. I do enjoy that, but there is something to be said about hitting the throttle and moving. So final thoughts on the new AMG GT63. I'm really impressed by the balance of the car in terms of being a comfortable and inviting thing to drive while coupling violent acceleration. That's really cool. I do think it needs to be a little more hardcore if it wants to play the game of being an alternative to, say, like a GT3 or a turbo, or playing ball with the sort of supercar guys. Because, you know, if you went on a supercar cruise with some friends who all have like Lamborghinis and stuff, this might show up as well and be part of the game. And I think it's just a little too comfortable. It's like almost too easy, and it needs to be a little more brutal if it wants to play that game. But if it wants to be a little more of a daily driver like a 911 Turbo, I think it's doing that job pretty darn well. So that's nice. So I think I was, I don't know, I don't want to say intimidated, but I thought it would be a little more of a pain to deal with as a daily driver for the couple days that I have it. But it's not. This is just like, it's a car. And I'm very thankful for cameras. This is great. Anyway, all right, it's got auto start stop. New cars driving me crazy. So I think that's going to do it for me here in Little Silver, New Jersey. I'm going to drop this back off. I got to go shoot many photos today. And then home for Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you have a wonderful, safe time getting home. I know the weather is starting to turn a little bit, so be cautious out on the roads. If my flight gets canceled out of Newark today, I think I'm just going to steal this and drive it back to Boston. They don't know that, but that's probably what I'm going to do if that happens. So anyway, thanks again to the McGovern Auto Group, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to respect the drive.